Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Your Daily Detroit, all about Detroit City FC. And welcome to our viewers on YouTube because, guys, we're doing video. This is crazy.
Yeah, I was unprepared. I didn't get my hair cut. I look frumpy, but thank you for having me.
Yeah, cameras scare me, so this is the big thing for me.
Well, I'm glad to have you both here. And look, I think the fans deserve something special because, look, I don't think most people thought that Detroit City FC was going to beat
I did.
Norris Howard. Talk to me.
I did. I
Okay.
thought we'd make the playoffs, and I said it on the show. I thought we'd make the playoffs, or we had a shot. And if you got a shot, you got a chance. So, hey, I thought they could get a win, especially the way they played on the last match of the season. I thought they had a chance.
Fletcher Sharpe?
No, I thought they would not get in the playoffs, but I thought if they did get in, it'd be because of someone else's mistake. They played hard against Pittsburgh the last game of the season, and people were like, maybe Bob Lilly would take it easy. Bob Lilly doesn't take things easy. Like if this was a zombie apocalypse, like he's hitting all the zombies in the head and he's opening up their heads to make sure that they're dead. That's how thorough he is as a person. So he put out a team that was mostly pretty good. They had a few backups, but still mostly pretty good. And Detroit played well. And then they get to the playoffs to put out the same lineup. He puts out a stronger one, and he neutralized them what they needed to do. I know a lot of the Pittsburgh players were like, well, the turf was kind of whatever at Keyworth, and the turf was as pristine as it needed to be at Highmark, and they still could not find a way into the net.
Yeah, Bob Lilly strikes me very differently than other soccer coaches I've seen. Like, I look at him and wonder if he isn't off of Bill Belichick's staff, like in the NFL, right? Like, it just doesn't. It's the vibe is very
The
different.
intensity.
Yeah, the intensity.
He looks like a football guy. I mean, he coaches that way. I remember I was reading an article about him like 4 or 5 years ago. They were on a 9-10 game win streak, but he's like, it's not good enough. We only won 7 of those games, and I'm like, man, you're on top of the league by a wide margin. He's like, it's not enough. Like, it's not enough because we're not out there winning all the games. We've only won a few of them, 1-0. And I'm like, you practice must suck with you, man. Because like you make them, it's like we won 1-0. He's like, all right, laps, go.
I'm with it because clearly it wasn't good enough. You get to the playoffs as a number one seed.
67 points.
67 points. You run away with the regular season, and you go up against an 8 seed, a team you literally played the week before, and you couldn't get a result.
I mean, it's a style clash. It's a style clash of he does what Trevor James does, except typically in the regular season does it a bit better. This time, his players got caught in the bright lights of the playoffs and gave Detroit a chance, and Dom Gasso took it.
I feel like it's that zip it emoji that we kind of need right now because we had some criticisms of the lineup before the game. But Dom Gasso, man, showed up.
Yeah, that's one of the things that winning does where people were like, where's Dario? Where's Skage? Where's all these other people? It's like, well, they won, so you don't really get to say that next week. It worked out, so if it works out, and it works out not because, like, oh, you won in an own goal or a penalty kick. Like, they won in a goal that was well struck. They played great defensively, played together. You kind of can't really complain going into the next game.
And what I love about Dom Gasso and the chance he took, just in general, is it's a slightly audacious, youthful strike. There are a lot of players who don't take that shot, especially in the dying embers of a playoff match, right? Because it can deflect anywhere, fly out, whatever. But precisely, I think because he's a younger player, he wants to win, he has that hunger, that he had the confidence to take the shot. And for me personally, I think that sort of energy had been lacking all season for DCFC, of just somebody who is willing to say, man, screw this. I want to win, so I'm taking the shot. And I don't care if it's a good shot, bad shot, I'm taking it. And it goes in.
I think that's why people like Dario Suarez so much.
I mean, even to build off Norris's point, like that goal, while it was a great shot by Dom and there's a lot of energy there, I like to refer to it more as like a team goal. And the reason why I say that is later on in the game, they brought on, for Ben Morris, they brought on Yazid Matthews, who's been hurt most of the season. Yazid is someone who I've watched him play at AFC Ann Arbor. I've watched him grow through Detroit. He's someone who does not really score goals, but he's in there just to like create chaos. If I think back to the last 4 goals he scored for Detroit, all of them were really weird goals. Like the one he scored last year against Loudoun, he got the ball, turned and shot it, and it hit the keeper directly in the hands and just hit off his hands and rolled underneath him into the net. And they're like, all right, well, that's definitely a goal, but like I wouldn't celebrate that right just yet because what happened? The game against Louisville, he scored in the playoffs. The ball bounced off his chest, off his shin and somehow landed at his feet, and he had tapped it in. I'm like, he didn't mean to do that. That was not a stellar touch where he's like, perfect. He's like, oh, oops, it's still here, I guess. I guess I'll shoot it. So he's there to create chaos and get in the way, but he's really more of like a team. I'm in here to do energy. Maybe I can't play the full 90 minutes, but I can play 20 or 30 and just get there and create chaos. And my favorite play that he did the entire game, besides the goal, after they had scored, they're up there, a ball bounces into the air, and he could have just let it go. He chose to go for it, draw a foul, waste some more time off the clock as they're like, we're going to take a free kick. He's like, I got it. Never mind, he's got it. I'll go up here instead. All the things within the rule of play that allow you to waste time, but like not waste time maliciously. And on the goal, he went up for a header the first time the ball came in from Rutz. Didn't fall to him. Instead of just sitting there and moping around, he goes right to the goal, right to the goalie, legally right to the goalie onside. And when the ball is hit by Gasso, the reason why Jamali Waite, who is the starting keeper or the backup keeper for the Jamaican national team, didn't see it is because Yazid literally jumped in the way, and Jamali had to wait for the ball to clear Yazid to jump for it. And as a result, he missed it by like I wouldn't say a fraction of a second, but he missed it by part of a foot. And the ball goes, it's obviously Dom Gasso's goal. I'm not going to take that away from it. It was a well-struck ball, lasered, as the guy said. The ball had eyes for the back of the net. But like Yazid being there and just being in the way and just giving him 1 extra second to have to delay is a perfect reason why that ball was in the back corner.
Did we just need Yazid healthy?
Partially, yeah. I think, to that point is you need those players who can just kind of get in the box and not just cause havoc, but be big bodies. You know what I mean? In the physicality of this particular league, a lot of teams will crumble under that physicality. And when you have somebody like Yazid who is able to get in there and win those balls in the air, or just play hold up, he's really great at doing that kind of stuff. And then also on top of that, every now and then just having a shot at goal. But I think the key here is looking at, Trevor James's game plan and how well it was executed. Everybody knows I've been very critical of sort of the defensive, get it launched sort of ideology. But I think here it worked out because it was, the immovable object versus the immovable object, right? It was just two teams who have such similar styles that eventually DCFC won out because they took an audacious strike and had a great save, by the way, from Nate in the end of the match. That's the way the cookie crumbles, as they say.
And even to build off that season, earlier on, Ben Morris struggled. He was having a hard time adjusting to the league. If Yazid had been healthy, it's like, all right, Ben, you're struggling with the physicality of the league. You can go to the bench for a few games. Yazid, go up there and play. But as a result, because Yazid was not healthy, they either put Skagge in a position where he was not able to succeed, or they put Ben up there who was just not dealing with the pressure at all. And as a result, the offense went totally stagnant. So I think having Yazid earlier on, instead of him being hurt for most of the season, would have a better chance at those players being able to develop in their own positions where they could play in their own role and do better as a result.
Nate Steinwasser stood on his head again.
Absolutely. I think week in, week out, our best player, and I say our as a Detroiter, one of the things that I really appreciate about his play is, some keepers you see, they make these saves and they gesticulate wildly, and they're just these, huge personalities. And what I love about Nate is the calmness he had all match long. The defensive line in front of him did get broken down a couple times, but even when that happened, he remained very chill, very calm, made the big saves, and was able to sort of be a stabilizing force for the rest of the team. And that's what I think allowed them to go in and get that sort of late winner. And I think when you're in a playoff situation where one or two mistakes could be the end of the entire season, you need players who are just like, all right, guys, let's just calm down here, because we know DCFC have not just players, but sometimes even as a collective can fall apart sometimes, especially in these, high pressure matches going towards Louisville and thinking about Louisville, which is a team that there's some bad blood there. I'd be interested in looking at, what a player like Nate and what his mentality going into that game is going to be, because you're going to need those types of players that remain calm and be a stabilizing force for the rest of the team.
Especially on that save that he had against Pittsburgh late. because his feet were all wrong. Like if you watch the clip of it, like as he jumps, his feet just give out, and he happens to be able to get his arm up quick enough to just deflect it away. And you watch the fans behind the net, and you literally watch all their hearts break. And like some guy jumped off the bench, like, "Oh, it's a goal! Oh no!" And like you watch them say, "This is not gonna happen." And those saves like that not only motivate your team, but also demoralize the opponents. Because if I have a header like that I know is going into the bottom corner and I know it's a goal, I'm about to turn away to celebrate, and I watch you poke it away, I think, well, maybe this game's over. Like, maybe we don't win this game now as a result, because this is a save that's 9 out of 10 times supposed to happen. 99 out of 100 times supposed to happen as a goal, and this guy just pawed it away like it's nothing. Maybe this isn't for us today.
With his body going the opposite direction, by the way.
Yeah,
like, and it's an amazing save when you watch it in real time, for sure.
If you're like a physics major, like it would make no sense how he was able to stop his body right then and just get his hand across there and pull it away. So yeah, I mean, like you said, for most of the games, Nate's typically the player of the game. He has had his moments, as most of the team have this season, where they've had some slip ups. But yeah, I mean, going against Louisville, a team who, again, they played earlier in the season, twice. One time they got a win, one time they got a loss. The one loss they had, a few players turned their heads off for a few seconds, and Louisville got a quick goal. So watching your keeper, who's been your pillar of just resilience and just normality, seeing what he does is definitely, I mean, also because he's a dad, so he's able to just, go into dad mode and get out of it.
But that age matters. That experience matters.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
So, like, to focus on that, like, you want to have someone like that as your leader and kind of help propel you forward as the season continues.
Let's, for our newer listeners, newer viewers, people who are coming to the team, they might have seen something in the paper and they're like, we got a playoff team. Let's talk a little bit about the USL Championship in general. We'll breeze through the West really quick. Sacramento and San Antonio. Any thoughts on that one, Fletcher?
It's gonna be a brutal game.
I was about to say,
and that Western Conference in general, like, there's part of me that's really glad we're not in it.
Both really good teams. San Antonio better offensively, Sacramento better defensively, but both have really great defenses. San Antonio has Mitchell Tainer, who legit almost every year is a candidate for MVP as a center back, which lets you know how good he is. But he's also built around a bunch of other players on defense. Sacramento has a team that, especially last year, wasn't very flashy. Like they didn't have any players who came over, did a bunch of step overs, who scored a bunch of goals. But like they would come in, play hard, and advance. They got to the US Open Cup Championship last year, which is great for a second division team. And this year they figured it out by signing Michigan-born Russell Cicerone, who has his own history with Detroit City FC. He came in there, supplied 15 to 16 goals this year. And when you have someone like that who can be a focal point, like, it allows the rest of your team just to breathe and say, okay, we're in trouble, get it to this guy. So it should be a really good game between a team with a really great, strong focal point in attack and a team with a really great defensive spine.
I will put a pin in it right here for people who may have listened earlier. Fletcher, you specifically said we should sign Cicerone.
Yeah, I did, and I honestly knew as I said it probably wasn't going to work, because I also knew that Detroit needed some money to sign him, and given that he used to play for Pittsburgh and was doing great for them, his price tag probably wouldn't be cheap. And also, he, again, as I said, he has history against Detroit City FC, and
we brought in Dario.
Yeah, not everyone's Dario. So some people are like, you know what? I played against you for 3-4 years. I'm gonna keep doing that. I'm okay. I don't want to come play for this team. So maybe that's not what happened at all, but I'm pretty sure the finances probably kicked in. But yeah, he's an amazing talent. Went to Buffalo. I hate to talk so nice about him. He went to Birmingham Brother Rice, which I went to U of D, so don't really like that very much.
This guy.
But amazing talent. His maturation from college to pro and watching him become this wing type player to this out and out number 9 poaching scorer has been great. So I think it should be a really great match if you're neutral between those, and if you're one of the fans, you should definitely get some nail files because it's going to be a close one.
Phoenix Rising and Orange County.
I actually am picking Phoenix to potentially upset here. And the reason is you have Formea, who's on form right now. He's got 2 goals in the playoffs already. I think one thing about Phoenix is if they get the offense going, I'm not sure if OC is going to have enough to really stand up against that. But, they got to go out. Phoenix has to go out, and they have to get rolling quick. If they don't get rolling quick, I think OC is going to clamp down on them and just choke the match out. If not, you're looking at potentially another big upset in the playoffs with a 6 taking down a 2.
And I mean, Orange County has a great player in Milan Orlowski who's definitely leaving after the season. He's been signed to a club in Europe. But like Phoenix has a much more balanced offense. They also have El Machatito, Danny Trejo, the smaller, who's played for LA Force and Nisa, and I've seen him do some work against Detroit. Got drafted by LAFC, went to Las Vegas Lights, tore it up there, went back to LAFC, just missed out on getting a championships medal with them last year. Really, really great player who causes havoc all around. So you have Formea, you have him, and just you have Carlos Harvey, who's able to supply balls from the back. Like, it's going to cause problems for everybody with the way their offense is set up. Now, I do think Orange County has a much more solid rest of the team, but if they keep getting pummeled in the attack, kind of the way we've seen Tampa Bay do during the regular season, unfortunately not during the playoffs, like eventually that'll start to break stuff down. And if you can't withhold the pressure from that, you'll start to leak goals. And Phoenix can do that to a team.
Back here in the East, a match I think we really need to watch is Charleston Battery, number 3, and number 7, Birmingham Legion. Ben Pierman, head of Charleston, has a long history with Detroit City FC. And let me tell you, man, he's doing a great job over there.
Charleston's a unit. Like it's a
huge turnaround.
Yeah, they have the record for the largest turnaround in league history for points. I think it was something like 29, 30 points from last year to this year. And really, they brought in Ben Pierman. They brought in Declan Wynn, who used to play for Detroit. They brought in a few other players, but like no one who was like, this is the centerpiece, this is the star. He went there, put his own style onto the team, and all of a sudden they changed. And like, they will chew you up and spit you out. If you play with the ball in front of them, they will just keep moving forward bit by bit. It's kind of like that scene from, what's the show? The Dragon Show.
Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
That's
Game of
the
Thrones.
Dragon Show.
Game of Thrones. Where
I'm forever going to call it the Dragon Show.
Where the Dothraki are with Jon Snow, and they're going up against that creepy guy, and they're trying to break through, and he just has his people move forward bit by bit with their shields and their spears, and eventually, after a while, they get cornered, and then they start poking them. That's the way Ben Pierman plays. It's, all right, you're going to have the ball here. Cool. 5 minutes later, you're going to have the ball a few feet back, a few more feet back, and then eventually it's like, oh, we're in our final third. He's like, cool, now we're going to take the ball and score. And that's going to happen every single time. And to make things even worse for people, maybe a little bit better in the end, they have this starlet, Fidel Barajas, 17-year-old Mexican youth international, who plays like he's like 30. Be Gritty is like he's 17. But he's a very talented kid, and if you led the league in assists, if you let him get loose, it's going to be a very long night for you. And I mean, Birmingham is a great team. I don't understand them. They play against Detroit, they lose.
This is why I'm fully pulling for Birmingham in this match, 100%.
If Birmingham somehow wins and Detroit gets past Louisville, Detroit's going to be in the final. I'm not even going to consider anything else because Birmingham.
It's a bold claim, sir.
Very bold, but I'll take it.
It is, but Birmingham has Enzo Martinez, one of the best midfielders in the league. They have Bruno Lapa. They have some other players who are just great players. But against Detroit, these players disappear. I don't understand it. I've tried to understand it. I've looked at the numbers that don't make any sense. I'm like, they have this great offense, this great defense. They go up against Detroit, who has not great offense, but a pretty solid defense. And all of a sudden, like, Detroit's like, oh, we're up 2-0. I'll never forget. One of the goals they scored last year, literally, Nate boots it up the field. It falls to Declan, who takes one touch into the box, falls to Hopino, who taps it in. And, like, that's the goal. That's the game's over. And it's like, literally, the rest of the game was just, we're pushing the ball back and forth. No other real shots. And you lose on a goal like that, and it's like, you know what? This is supposed to happen. You're just not going to beat this team. When you beat them, it might just be a regular season game. They'll probably celebrate. I think, honestly, Charleston should take care of business. It would be nice to see Birmingham get there, but I really don't see it at all.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement. I just think Charleston is too solid defensively. As I always say, the match is won and lost in the midfield, and I have not seen many teams outplay Charleston in the midfield, and so I think they're going to end up potentially dominating this match, to be perfectly honest with you. Birmingham is good, but I think when you look at Charleston, in the East, I don't necessarily see a team, in my opinion, that was that complete, that could really just go out. If they want to score goals, they can, or if they want to sit back and play defensive, they can. The versatility of that team is just so great. So I think they'll go out and dominate.
I will note that while we are very much high on Charleston over Birmingham, Birmingham did beat Tampa Bay Rowdies. And the Rowdies are built kind of like Phoenix Rising, where they have an attack where it's like we literally just throw a bunch of punches at you over and over and over and over and over, and eventually you crack. And unfortunately for them, all their punches missed, and Birmingham did not. So there's a chance Birmingham could slip around that pressure and then bring their own, but I just don't see it happening 2 times in the same playoffs.
I hear what both of you are saying, but I'm voting in the other party's primary, and I am 3 Sparks all the way. I am going to be cheering 100% for this because I believe they can do it. If they can beat the Rowdies, and I literally thought the Rowdies were going to put them to sleep. 100%.
I mean, listen, and that's the beauty of a playoff format is that any of these teams can beat anyone, but I just don't see it. As good as Tampa Bay is, I just don't see it. I just think they're going to get choked off in the midfield, and it's not going to be a fun night for them.
All right, let's look ahead to Louisville. Lou City is one of the teams in the USL. I kind of consider it one of the granddaddies, right? Like, they're not the Yankees, but it's that kind of same vibe where they've been such a big part of the league for so long. They're a very solid soccer organization. As far as the soccer play goes, they're a very solid organization. I think we have our work cut out for us, but I think we need to talk about what is ahead for Louisville, especially if you're somebody who isn't as familiar. Cameron Lancaster, man, like just.
Yeah, he's top 5 in goals scored in league history. Very, very solid player. He's slowing down a little bit. That's why they got Wilson Harris off the bench to allow him some space. But I know in their playoff game, they needed a goal early and a volley off of a corner kick. He catches it cleanly into the back corner. And from that point forward, it was a 1-1 draw that went to penalty kicks. But Cameron Lancaster still has something in the tank. Detroit hasn't seen it yet because he's been hurt most of the games they've played. But I think if you give him a chance, he probably puts it towards frame, and like that's a worry right there. And as I mentioned, Wilson Harris, if you go through the history of Detroit City FC, people have scored the most goals against them. The record is 4 goals by one player, and now it's currently just Wilson Harris, who's only played against Detroit for 2 years. So you don't want to leave him alone. Earlier, they played against Detroit this year. The 1 goal they gave up was because Wilson Harris just waited for a second. Both defenders kind of stepped away. He took 1 step forward. The ball fell to his feet. He tapped it in. So he's a poacher as well. They have Brian Del Piccolo on the wing. Old player, typically more central, but also on the wing who can help. They have Brian Ownby, who is a U.S. Youth International player who's been around forever. They have a few players. One I know, Adams, who transferred in from San Diego Loyal before they folded to play in the defense to shore them up. They also have one of the tallest people I've ever seen in my life, Martin Paulwells from Denmark, 6'7", and he was at Keyworth, and he walked on the field and like, I understand 6'7" is tall, but you don't really understand till the guy goes on the field and it's like corner kick and he's standing above the goalpost and you're like, yeah, you're not going to score because you just physically can't. Like, I don't know how you will head the ball down at all, but good luck, man. But yeah, they have a very stacked roster, but also this has been a bit of a down year for them to the point to where like people were even calling for the coach's head. They didn't want Danny Cruz there, and like not really his fault. Players got hurt. A few players retired. They brought in Dylan Mares in the midfield to help shore some things up, and he didn't really turn out the way they wanted it to turn out. But like, was still pretty well of a player. But yeah, they're a really solid club, and I know this is a down year for them, quote unquote. But like, seeing them in the playoffs is worrisome. They are, for the Eastern Conference, one of the best teams in the playoffs ever. I think behind San Antonio, they have the most championships, and maybe even tied with San Antonio. But like, yeah, down year for sure. But I don't want to see him in the playoffs. It's not going to be pleasant. They've been there before. Almost all of them have. I mean, even Richie Ballard, who plays for Detroit, he won 2 titles back-to-back with Louisville. So, like, they know how to win. This is not, like, a thing for them. This is just, a Saturday afternoon for them as opposed to, like, a huge event. While that does mean something to them, it's also like, yeah, we've been here. Let's just go in there in our 10,000-seat stadium and just clamp down and do what we do.
And listen, this is the fight for the fleur-de-lis, okay?
Yeah, the fleur fight is what I was going to call it. This needs to be a thing because let me tell you, every time we have been at a Louisville game, the energy has been intense. It's been exciting. It's been fun.
Yeah, and these two teams get together and the matches are usually intense. But I think I'm with Fletcher here. I think when you have a team that has that much experience, and the only thing DCFC is going to have for it going into this match is energy, is belief, is the idea that, hey, we've cleared the highest hurdle, literally. We could not beat a better team in the playoffs as far as seeding goes. And so everything beyond this should feel, quote-unquote, easier. However, the history with Louisville, the quality of players that they have, the amount of players that have played many, many, many matches against DCFC. I just think it potentially could be, as they say in Europe, the banana skin game, where you just go out and you just fall flat. And I think there's a real risk of DCFC going out and playing high energy for 20 minutes and just gassing themselves out and getting picked apart by Louisville.
It's a big worry as well. Like, they maybe not even 20, maybe they go out there and play 30, 40 minutes. They play hard, play a hard half, and they're like, we got it. And like the 5th minute of the second half, like, we got it. They get countered for a goal, and you just watch them deflate. Like, that would be the worst situation to happen, because from that point forward, they smell blood in the water, and now they're going to beat the crap out of you.
It's just it's screaming for Ombi to just hit like a 25-yard screamer.
And he's got it.
Yeah.
So the big hope that they have going forward is the way they played against Pittsburgh. I know it's hard to replicate that, but the energy you had there, I mean, the first few minutes, I didn't like it, but I understood why. First few minutes, already had a yellow card. It's like, we're going in there, we're showing you we're physical. Maybe you don't want a yellow card pulling someone down outside the box, but like, it's showing we're not going to let you walk all over us. And while that is great to have, it can sometimes be backfire, where you're like, oh, I'm doing this to show some energy. And the ref's like, cool, here's a red. You can go do the energy in the shower.
Yeah.
You don't want to see that happen early. Like with Pittsburgh, they got lucky. I was worried that could be a red card. Immediately on Matt Lewis, he pulled down that player, and I was like, oh no, that's a goal scoring chance. And the ref's like, not close enough, so they should be happy with that. But I mean, you want to come out hard, you want to come out energetic, you want to come out and really just take it to Louisville. But also the worry is, like, they can absorb your pressure. If they are at home, they have a huge stadium with a bunch of fans who really don't like Detroit City FC's organization at all, and haven't since 2016. So like, you got to be careful of that and not fall into the trap door that they're setting for you.
See, I want to come out there with a little bit of a different look. If there is a way that we can actually pull ahead, and I know it's harder and it's a much higher road to climb, but if we could get a goal ahead and then start to do that lockdown that we do, and I don't know if the lineup we put out against Pittsburgh is the lineup to do that, but I think that that's a way that we could get through this, because I have more faith in LaRouge, I guess is what I'm going to say.
I mean, I feel that, but the thing is DCFC is not going to go and out football Louisville. So if they're going to go and try to get that kind of goal, you're talking about a crazy set piece goal or something bouncing off a player and flying in the back of the net, which can happen, especially if you're playing aggressive and on the front foot. My issue, and I think what Fletcher and I are both sort of kind of alluding at or hinting at, is that DCFC is not necessarily a fluid team. They're not a team that's going to sit around in the midfield, make 80 passes, and walk the ball into the net. Louisville has the quality of players to be able to do that. And when you have a team like DCFC that is solid defensively, once you break that line once, the whole match can fall apart for DCFC. So that is the major concern, especially against teams like Louisville.
It was my biggest worry going into the game against Pittsburgh, because the last game they played against Pittsburgh before the draw at home, they had a pretty decent solid form, pretty decent defensive form. And then literally in like the 15th or 20th minute, 2 players fell asleep, let an entry pass go in, let another entry pass go in. Albert Dikwa puts the ball in the net. And from that point forward, the game was over. The game was over because Detroit's setup was, we're going to stop any shots coming in. We're going to do what we can. We're going to counter late. Give up a goal early, you have to then score at that point. And the lineup that they're going to put out, which probably, if Trevor's being who Trevor is, will be the same as the last 2 games, isn't really equipped to just go out there and say, we're going to go get us a goal. It's stay compact, stay here, keep your eyes alert, and then from this point forward, we're going to counterattack once we get a chance to do so. And getting a goal early could potentially happen, which would let the rest of Trevor's game work a lot easier. But like,
it's a risky strategy, but I would like to see a more offensive thing to start. We get ahead, then we lock it down.
See, the problem with that is the players they would be putting out there offensively could not hold on to the rest of it. He'd have to make subs almost. It's like, we scored a goal in the 5th minute.
You have to take them off.
Awesome. Now 5 of you come out right now. Right now. And like, that would be terrible, because you get to the 80th minute, you have players who are tired, you can't make your subs anymore. So like, you have to hope that the lineup you put out there, it's kind of what I do when I play FIFA or games like that. I set up a defensive lineup, maybe put a few attacking players, but it's like, I'm playing a defensive style We're going to make sure we press the ball up. We're going to make sure we stay compact. And getting late, we put some more offensive players on, do this from here. I know people want to see Dario and people want to see Skage. People want to see Adrian Billhart. They want to see Brett Levis on the wing. But the reason why he set up the way he set up is because he wants them to stay compact defensively. He has 4 center backs in there, which is just strange, but it's been working out so far. But he wants you to stay defensively compact. He wants the people in front to kind of shield the way and allow Nate to make some saves. Really only the crazy ones, but like no simple shots, no easy balls into the box to where the ball, someone's just in the box by themselves taking a shot. If they score a shot in the box, it's because they beat, like the header that Dequel almost scored at the end of the game. He had to jump over 2 people to do it. He had to hit a perfect corner header that got saved. But it wasn't something where he just got the ball dribbled in there and he's like, all right, no one's here. I'm going to blast this as hard as possible. So against teams like that are more offensively gifted, and again, for the regular season, for those who don't know, Detroit finished with 30 goals, which is like 3 goals more than the lowest total ever in the league history. So that's not great. You got to come out there and say, if I was trying to compare them to food, Louisville's offense is filet mignon. Detroit's is
Hamburger helper.
if that.
Ay.
So, like, it's really just we go out there, we get the ball, we put the ball wide, we kick it up as far as possible. You hold on to it for a second, let us get up there, and then we try to take a shot. And when that doesn't work, all 10 of us run back to the net, and we wait for them to come back and do the same thing over again. Whereas Louisville, like Norris said, we make a pass here, we make a pass here, maybe we pass the ball back, pass the ball forward, we make triangles over the field, and all of a sudden the ball is from here to here in your box, and we're waiting for you to make a mistake so we can take a shot. And, I mean, it's great when it works out the way, like, again, with Dom Gasso's shot, it worked out because there was a bit of a scrum, a bit of a mess, and Dom hit a lightning bolt that I think maybe save for his father, who I've seen at games just get very loud, like, why isn't Dom taking the free kick? It's like, because they have other players to do so. Save for, like, his father and his brother, I think everyone else was like, oh, I didn't know he could do that. I'm sure they did. I'm sure Dom did. I'm sure some people on the team also did as well. But, like, that's a moment where it's so amazing because it's unexpected. But, like, you can't count that to happen every single game going forward, or else you'll be disappointed when it doesn't happen the next game, and you might get dump trucked like 3-0. So you got to stay compact, and I know people hate watching defensive soccer because defensive soccer to them is what they see on The Simpsons, where it's like he passes the ball and he passes the ball and he passes the ball, and it's 0-0 with like 50,000 passes but no shots. Like, I know people hate that. I truly understand it, but like that's the brilliance of the sport, because it allows teams that don't have all of the tools to be able to then find a way to manufacture a win. And when you manufacture something yourself, at least with me, if you build it yourself and do it, it feels so much sweeter than just going out there and smashing and grabbing and leaving.
And I'm going to go out there and say, for DCFC fans who poo-poo that kind of
They're probably
football,
watching this right now, seething at our
no,
predictions.
but here's what I honestly say is that, let's think back to the 04 Pistons and their defensive record, arguably one of the most effective defenses in the history of the modern NBA, right? Everybody loved watching that. And everybody else said, oh man, I hate it. The rest of the league hated the Pistons because you might end a game 65-58. And it was disgusting to watch if you had to play against it. But everybody in Detroit loved it. And so the thing for me is that if you're going to get behind this DCFC team, you have to understand what this DCFC team is. And that's why, as much as I wanted to see swashbuckling football and great passing and the beautiful game, if you will, I also understand that that's not the team we have. So let's get behind the team, understand this is not a team that's going to go out and rout teams 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 to 0. This is not that kind of team.
Yeah, those eras now that MLS 2 is gone are over.
Yeah, and when people would even reference that, like, well, they scored 5 on Atlanta United 2 last year, I'm like, yeah, the average age of Atlanta United 2 last year was like...
You were playing middle school.
Was like 19. When New York Red Bulls came to the field, I'll never forget, they came to the field to play, and that was when Francis Atuahene was still on the team. He was in the box, and there's some kid who was marking him, and I literally watched him mouth, like, how old are you to this kid? And the kid replied, and he went, wow. And I was like, yeah, you should score a header off this. This guy's 15. Like, there's no reason why you guys are tied right now is not whatever. But that just shows you the ineffectively they have offensively is even against teams like that at times, they struggled. Like Norris said, you want to see people go out there. You want to see all the step overs and all the dribbles. You love the way Dario plays. I love the way Dario plays. I think it's great. I think it's infectious. It gets people excited. It gets them, really wanting to watch the play. The game where he had that goal from midfield, then he almost had a chance for a bicycle kick at the end of the game. Amazing. But also, Dario might not give you the same defensive pressure that, say, someone like Connor Rutz might. So, maybe to start the game, you leave Connor in there. 70th minute, 80th minute, still tied. Now, Dario, go in there and go do your stuff. And if it goes into extra time, we have you on there for take penalty kicks and to go from there. And, again, to show back to Norris's point about the 04 Pistons, to show how dominant they were just by not scoring the ball, I'll never forget this. They played against Indiana Pacers, and the Pacers scored, I think, 65 points. They still lost by 10. But Steven Jackson was celebrating because it broke the Pistons' streak of holding teams under 65 points for 6 games in a row. And he's like, yeah, we did it. And it's like, but you also lost. So he's like, yeah, they can't lock us down. It's like, yeah, but you still lost. I don't understand. So even I enjoyed watching Lindsey Hunter and Mike James come off the bench and just hand check people into hell in the corner. I love that so much. And I understand some people are I want to see, you see people now who are 16, 17, 18, what? In 04, the finals were what? 75 to 50. Ew, and it's that was basketball. It's not star calls. It's not people going out and scoring 50 points by themselves and saying this is what happens. And I guess the comparison would be someone coming to DCFC game, joining him, and be like, I scored 4 goals today. Or I scored 3 and 2 assists. That's probably not going to happen with this team. If they revamp next year, cool. If not, maybe not even next year. But this is, I guess, and I'm going to go out there for a leap, and I hope I don't get yelled at again on social media, which is becoming normal this year, unfortunately. This team, I guess, of all the professional teams in Detroit, I think to me embodies the spirit of Detroit the most because it's the most gritty. While people love the Lions and they go out there and they get things done, the Pistons the same way, and the Red Wings, this is a team that doesn't have all the options they can and still found a way to prove media, including myself, even wrong, and drag themselves into the playoffs and even beat the number 1 seeded team, probably number 1 seeded team in the entire USL, not just the Eastern Conference, to beat them at their own game. If that's not Detroit to you, I don't really know where you live at that point.
Facts.
I don't think there's anything else to add on to that. Norris Howard, so good to see you. Football Furioso is your other podcast.
That's right. So make sure you check that out on all your social media outlets. We mostly focus on the English Premier League and the Champions League. So come holler at us.
Fletcher Sharpe?
Yeah, I mean, I do stuff sometimes too.
He's there sometimes.
Yeah,
that's true.
Norris had me come on. I got to talk about English Premier League and just lament how the teams that I support just aren't really doing it this way. And they don't have the excuse Detroit has without having the finances. They have a bunch of money. They're just not doing it. So, I mean, I'm there. I'm also on, Twitter, Instagram, St. FDW. You can come there and say nice things only. Because I really want nice things said, please.
And I am Jer Stays. Thank you so much for listening and watching your Daily Detroit and this special edition. If you're new here, Daily Detroit shares what to know and where to go in Metro Detroit every single weekday. Remember that you are somebody, and we'll see you around Detroit.